the hardly believable performance in the bull ring, the picturesque fisherman of Nazaré, ways of life and work, of play and worship. These are among the interesting things you see in this corner of Europe, things that make the little country of Portugal so fascinating a land for visitors who come here from Europe and from overseas.
Welcome to the world of Trans World Airlines.
Whenever you travel, wherever you go, welcome to the world of Trans World Airlines. This is a wonderful world of comforts and innovations for every guest who travels with TWA. To our cabin attendants, you are a very special person. On our aircraft, the very latest in stereo equipment is available for your listening pleasure. There is even a printed program from which you may make your selection. Then comes cocktail time with hot and cold hors d'oeuvres, offered with the compliments of your host airline to you and your fellow passengers. For those who prefer the comforts of TWA's economy services, you may select your favorite cocktail or beverage served from the cart at a reasonable charge. Before you know it, it's dinner time, a service in which TWA excels. In the International Royal Ambassador First Class section, the roast is served piping hot from the cart. Or you may select any of several other entrees cooked to your special order. Here is food and wine service designed to meet the approval of the most exacting gourmet. Here is food and wine service that makes you feel that you are truly a royal ambassador. In the economy section, the food is just as hot and just as tasty and served with just as much care and concern. And here, too, there is offered your choice of beverage, or for a small charge, wine served from the cart. By now, your Starstream jet has carried you in quiet comfort hundreds of miles toward your destination. After dinner, you are welcome to another world of Trans World Airlines, the world of motion pictures, a unique feature that TWA pioneered for offering to the traveling public. On most flights, films are shown in both economy and in the first class sections at a nominal charge. All you have to do to attend TWA's Starstream Theater is to put on your personal set of headphones, for which there is a small fee, adjust the sound to the level of your liking, and sit back and enjoy yourself as you race motionless above the clouds at almost 600 miles an hour. Welcome to the ultimate in travel enjoyment. Welcome to the world of Trans World Airlines. This is our welcome to one of the most inviting countries of Europe, Portugal. The Salazar Bridge spans the Tagus River, and as we approach Lisbon, we are prepared to find a clean and most attractive city. Lisbon, political, commercial, and cultural center of the nation. Because Portugal was neutral during the Second World War, Lisbon became Europe's crossroads of espionage. Today, the aura of international intrigue is gone, and Lisbon is a light-hearted, wide-open city. Before proceeding to the heart of the city, a look first at one of Europe's most modern air terminals. Here is where you arrive at the end of your transatlantic flight, or from Europe, for that matter, and the rest of the world. All right, we're back to Lisbon. These days, virtually a new city, risen from the ashes of an old city destroyed by earthquake in 1755, subsequently rebuilt, thereby making present-day Lisbon a fascinating mixture of sophisticated contemporary and colorful provincial, not only in architecture, but in the spirit of its people and their way of life. Here's a good index to what we mean. The Portuguese love of flowers, a national characteristic you're going to meet from start to finish on your visit to Portugal. The statue is of King Pedro IV, and this spacious plaza, once a public execution ground, is officially named Rocio Square. But it was nicknamed Rolling Motion Square by British sailors on leave, intrigued by this mosaic design, an optical illusion of the undulating movement of ocean waves. This impressive building represents the cultural side of Lisbon, the National Theatre, home of stage plays, classical and modern, comedy and drama. Transportation in Lisbon? No problem. Always plentiful. Another of Lisbon's popular downtown areas, a result by the way of city planning, Restauradores Square. It leads into the Champs-Élysées of Lisbon, a magnificent promenade 300 feet wide, known as Avenida de Liberdade. From there to still another of the city's broad vistas, this one named in honor of the man who planned this new city back in 1755, the Marquess de Pombal. In those days, Portugal was a monarchy. Now, as manifest by this assembly building, Portugal is officially a corporated republic, its administrative power centered in the hands of the Prime Minister. Now for the highlight of Lisbon's modern reconstruction, the Praça do Comércio, one of the great public squares of Europe. Its less formal name is Black Horse Square, after this equestrian statue of King Joseph I, whose reign was dominated by his prime minister, the Marquess de Pombal, of Reconstruction fame. Lisbon is built on some rather steep hills. This municipal elevator, built by Gustave Eiffel, who also built the famous Eiffel Tower in Paris, takes you from the lower to the upper level of the city. For a close look at an aspect of Lisbon life most visitors never see, we have ventured into the workaday sector of the city, its produce market. This is early Sunday morning. To study these faces is to review the many cross-currents of historical conquest and settlement, going back 2,000 and 3,000 years. In these features are etched the Phoenician and Celt, Greek and Roman, Moor and Iberian, today's hard-working but proud Portuguese. Portugal is basically a Catholic country. The Portuguese are comfortable enough in their Catholic faith, devout and respectful. Sunday is only one day of the week when they display their religion. On the outskirts of Lisbon is the site of 3 memorials to Portugal's golden age of discovery. First, the Monastery of Jerónimos, built to commemorate the discovery of a sea route to India. Then this magnificent memorial to Prince Henry the Navigator, whose school of navigation and ardent support of Portuguese mariners made Portugal the outstanding seafaring nation of the 15th century. And then the Tower of Belém, built in 1521 to honor the great Portuguese explorers whose epic voyages to Africa, Asia, and South America made Portugal the greatest empire of the early 16th century. We've left history behind and come to Estoril, a summer resort town where the present reigns supreme. The beach at Estoril can be called the Portuguese Riviera, dedicated to those who want to swim or just get a suntan, also to see and be seen along this sunny strip of subtropical coastline. Residents of Lisbon and tourists like us, here to share in the pleasures of Portugal. High on the list of such pleasures is our visit to Nazaré, a summer resort, and of much more interest to us, a fishing village, one of the most picturesque in all the world, mostly because of the men and women who live and work here. Nazaré has no available harbor, so it takes muscle, men and oxen to launch fishing boats into the sea and then drag them out across the sands. The day's work done, the huge nets are hauled up the beach for drying and repair. The meticulous care they lavish on their nets tells us the story of men of the sea who have followed their trade down through the centuries.
Look at these faces. Here in the north, less of the Moorish strain, more of the Celtic Iberian.
Notice the long wool caps they wear. The hanging end fold serves as an extra pocket in which they carry cigarettes and other personal impedimenta. Here's another facet of the fishing industry in Portugal. A few miles down the coastline from Lisbon, a place called Sesimbra. Like Nazaré in the north, it's a mixture during the summer season of vacationists at leisure and fishermen at work. We happened along at a propitious time. That is, if you are interested in Portuguese folkways, or if fish happens to be one of your favorite foods, or both. Everybody has eaten sardines from Portugal, but as you inspect this rather formidable display of denizens of the deep, fresh from offshore Portuguese waters, you realize that sardines are by no means the only catch. On a commercial note, fishing is a major industry. Much or most of the catch marked for export. Fresh, frozen, and canned. But a good share is for home consumption, fish being an important part of the daily Portuguese diet. Market day in the small town is a traveler's opportunity to see and hear the earthiness of Portuguese peasant life. Farmers travel into town by donkey, ox cart, or bus, with their fowl, dairy products, and produce, put on display and sold at the highest possible price. Then the townspeople, here to shop for the family food, buying at the lowest possible price.
And flowers, of course. Flowers not only on sale in Portugal, but along the highways you travel. Flowers, flowers, flowers everywhere you go.
And here and there throughout the country, this, no particular holiday or festival, only the friendliness of the Portuguese. In this case, these boys and girls not only willing, but eager to get into their costumes and do this folk ballet for our special benefit. And so please your full and undivided attention as our return to their courtesy and hospitality to us. Back to an interesting part of the portrait of Portugal, agriculture. More and more scenes like this, farming in the modern mode, the work of cultivation and harvest mechanically powered.
On some farms, work is still done by hand, horse, and oxen power. A contrast in progress between old and modern Portugal. Here is one of the most fascinating sights in the entire country. And yet there are some, the ultra-modern minded, who want these quaint windmills eliminated. It insults our Portuguese landscape, they say. Fortunately, the vast majority of Portuguese and all foreigners who travel here disagree. Thus, the windmills remain, one of the glories of the Portuguese countryside. The clay pots, to whistle in the wind, telling the farmers far away in the fields that the wings are turning. The windmill is doing its work of grinding the grain. We have come to the south of Portugal, in the midst of a great cork tree forest. Cork is actually the dead outer bark of the cork oak tree and is removed every 9 or 10 years without killing the tree. Production like this goes on until the tree is about 150 years old. Stripping, or if you'll pardon the expression, disrobing the cork tree, leaves it a pinkish color. Don't worry about what may look like a staggering load for a woman to carry, and on her head of all places. Remember, this is cork, very light in weight, 4 times lighter than water, with more than half of its bulk air. Cork as an export is very important to Portugal, so here is an impressive statistic. More than 1.5 million acres of cork tree forests produce more than 150,000 tons. And since cork is so light in weight, you can imagine how big that must be in size. Its uses, many and diversified. The next cork you pull out of a bottle probably came from here. The insulation of your roof or refrigerator, the soundproofing of your home or office. Cork from Portugal, so light, so resilient, important to Portugal, important to the world. This castle was the birthplace of Portugal as a free nation, in the person of Alfonso Henriques. In the 12th century, he liberated Portugal from Spain, and with the help of English crusaders, drove the Moors out of Lisbon, then became the first king of independent Portugal. The city of Coimbra has 2 main claims to fame. Its university, founded in the year 1290, and its most famous contemporary alumnus and later professor of economics, Dr. Antonio de Salazar. These young people are a cross-section of the university's student body. Within these walls is the best of Portugal, or of any nation. Higher education, the pathway to human attainment in the art and science of modern living. Young Portugal, the potential that is Portugal's future. During the season of combined festival and holy pilgrimage, devout worshippers mount this double staircase to the shrine above, many of them on hands and knees. It is the famous Cathedral of Bom Jesus in Braga, built in the early 12th century. Just as celebrated is the monastery of Our Lady of Victory in the town of Batalha, built to commemorate Portuguese victory over Spain in 1385, thus ensuring its national independence. A time of holy obeisance in the village of Fatima, named for a Moorish princess. But this is the site each year from May to October of a great Christian pilgrimage, to what is now the shrine of Our Lady of Fatima. It all started on the 13th of May in the year 1917, when 3 Portuguese children, tending sheep, said they had seen a heavenly figure in a blaze of pure white light. She spoke to them as Santa Maria, the Virgin Mary. She told them to return 5 times, always on the 13th of the month, and she appeared before them each time. A modern miracle, so recognized by the Catholic Church. Thus has Fatima become one of the most famous shrines of Christendom. Pilgrimages each year by hundreds of thousands, not from Portugal alone, but from all of Europe and from across the seas. Look, you motorists from other countries, no billboards, and so it is throughout most of Portugal. The prosperous city of Porto, on the banks of the Douro River, is so old that it claims to have been founded by Noah of biblical flood fame. Be that as it may, when the Romans came here some 2,000 years ago, they called it Portus Cali, which became Portugal, and the name of the entire country. Here is the reason for Porto's prosperity. Port wine, made from Burgundy grapes that ripen on these hot terraced slopes of the River Douro. The original vines were brought here 800 years ago by Count Henry of Burgundy. We are lucky to arrive at harvest time in late September, and doubly fortunate to be invited out to the vineyards for a close-up look at these grapes in fat, juicy bunches as they are picked from the vines. Previously, we had visited the Institute of Port Wine, established to guarantee port as a special product of Porto and the Douro district. This is what they told us. These hillsides are composed of a flaky soil, rich in grape-stimulating chemicals. That is why our port wine cannot be matched anywhere else in the world. The harvest is carried to lagares, or big stone tanks, where the crushing of the grapes and the fermentation begin. It is work that takes time. At the right moment, the liquid is drawn into vats. A little brandy is added to check fermentation and preserve natural sugar. Then, after weeks of labor in the fields and inside at the tanks and vats, the workers relax. There is dancing and music. This rather sedate, old-fashioned ballroom dancing is only the beginning. A kind of relaxing preparation for what is to come later, when the wine harvest festival really gets underway. That's one of the best times of year to visit Porto, home of one of the world's greatest wines. That's when you'll have the time of your life around here, including your generous share of the port wine itself, star of the happy occasion. No country has more and livelier romarias and feiras, that is, folk festivals, than Portugal. The Portuguese festival, no matter what the occasion, is a time when everybody feels gay and looks his or her best. When native costumes, ancient and modern, are worn and proudly put on display, as witness these campinos, or Portuguese cowboys, in all their colorful elegance. We have saved this romaria for last, a kind of climax to our journey to Portugal, and you'll soon see why. It takes place in Vila Franca, just north of Lisbon, and is called Colheita Encanado, which means Bullfight Festival. It's the kind of bullfight you won't believe. You've got to see it, and even then you'll probably doubt your own eyes. It starts in the streets of Vila Franca, called the Running of the Bulls. What goes on in these streets, and it has hardly begun so far, is only a preliminary to what is to happen later. Has this bull broken loose? Not at all. He has been let loose to provide sport for the young men of the town who would show their courage in confrontation with the bulls. If you think this is a town gone mad, you're wrong. They call this fun. Even this running cavalier, he's having the time of his life until this amateur torero comes to his rescue. These are all amateurs having their brave moments before the professionals take over later. Here's where it happens, at the Praça de Toros, bullfighting in earnest, but Portuguese style. It starts with all the impressive sights and sounds of the bullfight spectacles you may have seen in Madrid, or Seville, or Mexico City. But here in Villafranca, even more so. It's almost like a theatrical performance before the real fireworks begin, full of grace, beauty, and dignity. Then they're off. The same ring, the same bulls we saw before, but not the same boys and men we saw in the streets. This is bullfighting Portuguese style, which means, you may be glad to know, that the bull is never killed. As for the bullfighters in the ring, don't worry about them. They wear padding, and for good measure, the bull's horns are padded too. The crowd applauds both impartially. Sometimes the bull, sometimes those who fight the bull. To the Portuguese, it's a bullfight. To us, it's more like the Marx Brothers at the circus. A free-for-all assault, then a huddle. The bull in the middle as they swarm all over him. Then, this, the final indignity. But better than being killed. Our curtain comes down on a note of good-natured laughter. This is our hilarious salute to the pleasures of a most attractive country, Portugal.